Bass Guitar Fundamentals lesson number 3. Let's go. Today's lesson is all about open improvisation. Now, this is probably something that you haven't been told that you need to be doing as a young bass player or as a beginning bass player or somebody who's trying to just get the bass together in the initial stages. But I want to say that I think this is really important. You need to be playing the bass without any agenda, without trying to improve, without trying to get together a lick, without trying to learn something. Just play the bass. One note leads to another, and you can play literally anything and follow it by literally anything else. You can't always do this in a musical setting, but you can do this on the bass, and it's not against the law. Like, for real, you can just make stuff up. And not only can you really should just be making stuff up. You should just be playing random things when you're starting out on the bass. Victor Wooten has said over and over and time again, and I'm going to say I think he's absolutely right, music is a language. How do we learn how to speak? We just tried. We started trying to speak. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story that's kind of embarrassing, but it's absolutely true. My first experience with playing music was that my brother had a guitar at the house that had no strings on it, no pickups in it. It was just like, I remember it was like a Les Paul body shape, probably an Epiphone Les Paul body shape that somebody had stripped, and somehow it ended up in my brother's closet. And when my brother wasn't home and I was a little kid, I used to sneak into his room, pick up this guitar, and I realized I could take the telephone cord back in the day, in the 80s. I could take the telephone cord, wrap it around the strap buttons, and I could hold the guitar. And I'd put on music, and I'd stand there, and I'd just rock. You know what I mean? Like, I'd just get into the feeling of whatever came my way. And I was like, this is good, right? Like, this is positive. And it lit me up, and it got me really interested in playing music. Because what it did, I think, in a way, was that it, like, helped me fall in love with making noise. I think this is really important because if you fall in love with just making sound and following one note with the next, and you just fall in love with the bass, then that will drive you forward into all the studying and all the organizing that you've got to do and all the things that a bass player really has to get together. If you love it first, all that other stuff will fall in line because you love it. But the love won't necessarily come just because you're checking all the boxes. I got my first bass for my 14th birthday. I begged my dad for a bass because I was taking guitar lessons, but I'd fallen in love with the feeling of the bass in the music store. You know, when I would play it and I could feel the low notes, I was like, oh man, I really like this. And it just shot through me. So I begged my dad to get me a bass. My dad showed up at the music store for my 14th birthday. He said, I have two parameters. I want to buy the cheapest bass you have and the cheapest amp you have. And that's what I got for my 14th birthday. It ended up being a Washburn Lion. And then I don't even remember what the amp was. It was like a little guitar amp. It wasn't even a bass amp. But I took that thing home, and for the first year, I played nonstop. But here's the thing. I never practiced scales or tried to learn songs. I don't even remember what I did. I just played. I just figured out how to move. I just figured out that I just liked the feeling of the bass, and I liked moving from one note to the next, and I liked playing. And it really lit me up. It was such a positive experience. And I remember the amp had a little red button on it, and you push that red button and it went to distortion. And that was like my jam, I just kept that distortion button on and just, it was cool. I ended up falling in love with the bass, but I couldn't really speak music. I couldn't really communicate musically. I could just talk, And it took me a long time to put together how to actually work with other people. That was a long, long process for me. But it was all made possible because I fell in love with the bass. So what I want to encourage you to do is, without an agenda, without rules, without an idea of what you're doing, really pick up the bass and just make noise. You don't have to try to make noise like anybody else. You can just, how do your fingers and your hands work? How does your bass work? What happens if you go from this note to this note? What happens if you play this note a few times? Can you make a rhythm? Can you make a basic could you just do anything that you kind of find and discover yourself? When we are young and we're learning how to speak, we don't or if let's say you have a younger sibling and they're learning how to speak. When they mess something up, you don't tell them that was bad. You did it wrong. No, you just encourage them to keep talking, because that's what's gonna, you don't shut it down, you try to open it up, especially when they're really, really young. Now, at some point, you got to go in, you got to deal with, reading your books, you got to deal with learning how to construct sentences, you got to deal with grammar, understand what a paragraph is. You got to go through all that stuff, and you'll have to go through all that stuff musically if you really want to get to the place where you're playing with other people. But it's okay to just make noise right now. And I actually want to really encourage you to just pick up the bass and play with no agenda, with no idea of what you're doing, but then just follow it. Just see where it goes. When I got to the point where I started to develop my musicianship, I thought I had kind of gotten past needing to just sit down and play without an agenda. And I had a couple of really, really prominent things happen in my life, in my musical life. One was that when I got to college, I went to Augusta University here in Augusta, Georgia, and I was a music major there. I met Rob Foster, who is a wonderful musician and became a really important mentor of mine. And Rob is a great improviser. He's a great jazz musician, and he's actually really interested and very good at open improvisation. And something happened where I was kind of playing with Rob in the jazz band, and I was very green. I was very young. I was playing acoustic bass and playing electric bass and just trying to get some basic stuff together. No pun intended. And Rob had organized a concert that was coming to the university with Robbie Coltrane, who's John Coltrane's son, Ralph Alessi, who's a great trumpet player, and Art Landy, this incredible piano player who's like a genius mastermind. And they were coming with this bass player whose name I can't remember right now. And they were going to come and do a concert at the university. And the bass player, kind of like at the last moment, like something happened and he had some personal reasons he had to cancel. And so Rob came to me and said, I think you're going to have to play this concert. And I was like, well, okay, I'll try. And so these guys came in and they had music that was like really brilliant, but a lot of the music was, it would be like they'd have a head or like a melody that you play at the beginning, and then there was nothing else. And you were just supposed to like play the head and then just play free. Like they liked to just play free and open. And they were absolute masterful jazz musicians. And we played 2 concerts when they came to town. We did a concert at the university. We played a club date at a nearby city. And it freaked me out, and it totally changed it rearranged all the gray matter in my brain. And I started to see how crucial it was to be able to just listen and react. Without an agenda, without trying to do something, but just listen to the musicians around you and kind of feel your way through it. And then another thing that happened was that Rob and I ended up getting a gig at this local restaurant called the Bee's Knees, where once a month on a Tuesday night we would go down and for 2 hours we would just play free. And we did this for 2 years. And it just really changed how I felt about all kinds of music. And it really informed my ability to compose. It informed my ability to improvise. It informed my ability to play things straight and actually play songs accurately. Because something happened when I was like, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I just had to play a note and then find the next note and start to string together one note after the next. It was a really profound experience. So I want to encourage you today to try this in whatever way it presents itself to you. I think you should be spending a lot of time doing this if you really want to get the bass together. It will help you discover your voice. It will help you uncover how you think about music. It will help you with your technique. It'll help you figure out your unique relationship with the bass, which is what you're actually supposed to do. You're actually supposed to find your unique voice and how that fits in a wider conversation. We don't need another clone of this person, X, Y, or Z, who you think is great. We need you to be yourself and to believe that you can do it. And I believe that you can do it. hope you found today's lesson helpful. The big takeaway is that I want you to believe in yourself. I want you to believe in the process. And I want you to just try to play the bass without any agenda. This is absolutely crucial because it informs your love of the instrument. And if you love the instrument and you love music, that will carry you through anything that you need to do in order to actually improve as a bassist and as a musician. Love is the thing that you can always trust. It's not going to lead you wrong. If it's real, it's just not going to lead you wrong. So find a way to kind of skip past all the nonsense of like, I've got to learn this and I've got to learn that. Because music is a funny place where it's easy to become intimidated and it's kind of easy to become envious of other people's skills and other people's voice, and you feel kind of small and insignificant. But that's not real and that's not accurate. We should hold people who are really masterful in a light of respect, but we don't need to kind of like let that intimidate us to the point where we feel like we're not good enough. Flip the script on that. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Allow yourself to just make noise. And allow yourself to develop the ability to speak the language as it is presented to you on your own unique path, and believe that it is possible to move forward. And I'll catch you on the next lesson. Take care.